Okie dokie, Smokies. Let's talk about it. Um, I'm basically hello, by the way. Welcome to the Packernet podcast slash whatever my YouTube is called. Doing a little recap. I noticed there's basically two kinds of Packer fans right now. One group, and I'm sure there's plenty in between. This is just my observation. One group seems to think that it was a pretty good game, right? It looked pretty decent. Obviously, not everybody was perfect, but I liked what I saw from X, Y, and Z. Matt LaFleur, even at halftime, seemed excited about what he was watching and, for the most part, what the team was doing. And then the other half of the fan base is furious. Some, you can kind of split those into two categories. Some because we lost 19-0 and they're furious about it, and some people just because that doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? You lost for a reason and because they saw a lot of bad things. So kind of curious as the comments start pouring in here a little bit. I haven't seen any from Facebook. I just want to make sure that that's working. I don't see any. So if you're watching on Facebook, if you wouldn't mind dropping a little comment in there, I just want to make sure that it's working so I don't miss any of your comments, anything like that. You know how it is. But as those start coming in, I just kind of wanted to not even so much give you my thoughts. I mean, I will as we go through this, and I'll go through the stats and whatnot, but I'm just kind of curious what everybody else's thoughts on it were. Do want to go through the roster a little bit. You can hear the dog bark. So Packer party's still kind of going on. Oh, yeah, well, part of it's working. I saw that I just liked my own post. So the Packer party's still kind of going on. People are upstairs. Good amount of noise. My grandma came over and gave my son some remote control cars, so that might be making noise, and that's making the dog freak out. So the dog's barking. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. I will do my best to mitigate noises. But we'll go through this, and I think just keep the comments coming in for now. I'll get caught up. I want to go through the statistics as I see them here at NFL.com. Obviously, the score 19-0, Buffalo Bills over the Green Bay Packers. Let me just say, first of all, and listen, if you're mad about it, that's fine. I'm not going to crucify you for it. I understand that it's not entirely an excuse, but I am very upset that the Buffalo Bills not only played their starters, it was almost the whole game. That is so absurd. Jordan Love got sacked. Or no, it wasn't a sack. It was a handoff, I think, but in the third quarter, when Jordan Love was still out there, I think it was his final drive, the run play got blown up by Ed Oliver. Ed freaking Oliver in the third quarter. I hate to say that I was rooting for injuries, but there was a small vindictive part of me that wanted a really important player to just get very injured, just so I can look at you and go, see, you dummy? Why would you do that? I mean, I don't get why you're starting anybody. Josh Allen is such a critical. That's an understatement. He is the team. He may as well be Aaron Rodgers. If he goes out, the team's done. The season is over. If you wanted to do one drive, fine. 2 drives, 3 drives, whatever he was out there for is ridiculous. And again, Jerry Hughes played at least a half. I saw again Ed Oliver in the third quarter is insane to me. And again, it's not even so much upsetting because of the score. It's upsetting because I want to be able to better evaluate our guys. And when Ed Oliver is pushing our third-string offensive tackle back into our running back, it kind of makes it hard to assess our running backs, the Packers' running backs. It's hard to assess our quarterbacks when the guy's just running for his life all the time because you got your best players out there. Like, can you let your guys rest and maybe do what you're supposed to do in preseason so we can get this assessment stuff going? It's just stupid. It's not, there's no reason. Well, they need reps. Fine, give them a quarter. At the most, give them a quarter. I don't know. It's just, it just annoyed me. And I was even thinking, well, third quarter at least, Jordan Love will catch a break and he'll be able to do some stuff. And again, as soon as I saw Ed Oliver pushed Josh Nijman basically right through our running back, it was just infuriating. It's like, why is he out there? Why is he out there? Why are you putting... I know Ed Oliver isn't really that good. I know he's really struggled as a Buffalo Bill. Who knows? Maybe he's a backup at this point in his career. But that just really, really aggravated me. But anyways, again, that's not entirely an excuse. There were plenty of guys that they had opportunities to make plays and didn't make plays, and the play calling was vanilla. I'm going to say vanilla and just hope that that's what it is, and we're going to spice it up a little bit when the regular season starts. But some of it was very questionable. But, anyways, 19-0. Again, the score doesn't really matter, but I really wish Buffalo would have pulled a couple of their guys so that we could evaluate. And again, because some people look at it and say, well, if you're a starter caliber player, you should be able to play with the starters. Kind of. But it's hard to evaluate Jordan Love when backup offensive linemen are blocking starting offensive linemen and you're under duress a lot more than you would be in the regular season. It makes it a lot more difficult. It's harder to evaluate Jordan Love when he can't throw to his wide receivers because his backup wide receivers are being covered by starting corners. You know what I mean? So that just annoys me. And the same thing happened to Love the first time he played. He's constantly under duress. The guys are never open. The run game is this time around wasn't as bad, but the first time was just terrible. It's like I just wish he could operate in what looks like a normal offense just to kind of get a better gauge of what he's capable of. But we can't seem to ever get that. But anyways, Jordan Love was 12 of 18, 149 yards and a pick. That interception was terrible. Flashback to his college days when he was just constantly forcing stuff, and that got him into trouble. And you kind of understand it when he was playing in college because he played for such a terrible team. He had to force stuff, but that was just completely unnecessary. He's going down. It was just dumb. There's no other way to put it. That can't happen. Kurt Benkert, 7 of 11, 61 yards. Running backs, Kylan Hill, again, I thought looked fantastic. I really thought he was going to get that touchdown down beginning first or second quarter, somewhere in there. 7 carries, 37 yards, 5.3 average. Dexter Williams, once again, looked phenomenal. I know it's kind of getting into the backup range and all that stuff, so the defense wasn't probably quite as good, but I swear every time I watch the guy, it's like he's really good. I don't know why we don't ever give him any credit. 5 carries, 28 yards, 5.6 yards per carry. Patrick Taylor, 6 carries, 19 yards, 3.2 average. A.J. Dillon, 7 carries, 18 yards, 2.6 average. The heck is that noise? Jordan Love, 3 carries, 16 yards, 5.3 average. I think it's the hose. I think they're running the hose outside. They're probably doing the sprinkler. That sounds... everything in the basement sounds ridiculously loud. If I was upstairs right now, I wouldn't even hear it. But because I'm in the basement, everything is... sounds like I live in a zoo. I got to get caught up on some of these questions, but let's see. The receiving, we'll just kind of do the highlights. Malik Taylor, 5 receptions, 69 yards. Amari actually kind of stepped it up. He's still mostly just doing the bubble screen type things, and sometimes he can break away, sometimes he can't. Certainly nothing special. But 6 receptions for 41 yards. Otherwise, Reggie Begelton had 4 for 51. Nobody else had more than 1 reception. Dominique Daphne, Patrick Taylor, Kylan Hill, and Josiah DeGuara each had 1. Let's see what else is interesting here. Pass deflections, Ray Wilborn and Dijon Harris. Defensively, we had a half a sack for Isaiah McDuffie and Delonte Scott, and 1 full sack for Chauncey Rivers, who I thought had a great day. By the way, as you're dropping in, if you haven't already, I keep seeing the comments and being like, what are they talking about? Stop, you're not doing that yet. Drop in observations of players. I don't know if that's what you're doing over there or not, because every time I look, I get distracted. But if you haven't, highlights, lowlights, what did you think? Who did you like? Who didn't you like? Et cetera, et cetera. Mason Crosby, what in the heck was that? And again, that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's not all just based on, well, they had their starters and we had our backups. Some of it was like, what are you guys doing? You know what I mean? It's just, that ain't good. And when Mason Crosby misses a chip shot, I'm glad it's preseason. I know I'm not scared, whatever, but it's still like, it just doesn't feel good when your team is just not performing. And that was kind of the other thought I had. By the way, J.K. Scott, 1 punt, 56 yards, freaking just knocked the air out of that ball. That was ridiculous. And kind of like when I talk about J.K. Scott, I know I'm moving off what I was going to say, but when I'm talking, the only reason I keep looking at the comments is I'm like, are they saying that my mic isn't working or anything? No, it looks like we're good. The thing that I keep saying about J.K. Scott is he's inconsistent, but the reason why they're not going to get rid of him is because of those punts. He can punt the ball in a way that not a lot of people can. It's sort of like Josh Allen, although Josh Allen has materialized into a very, very good quarterback, but he was kind of just an inconsistent guy that had a heck of an arm and had some mobility talent. And so you kind of just keep him for his upside and hope that he can kind of iron out the issues. J.K. Scott has not, but that punt right there is exactly why he's sticking around. And I saw Mason came out and did a punt, one punt, 41 yards. Obviously not a very good punt because he's not a punter, but I don't exactly know what that was about. I know the announcers kept talking about it as though it was just kind of practice, just in case kind of thing. It's preseason, why not? Got to see if we can use him as a backup if need be, or I don't know, just give him some reps. I don't know. It is possible J.K. got hurt. I don't know. I have not heard anything about it. My Twitter is just kind of inundated with a lot of stuff, so I haven't even been able to sift through that. But if you did see anything about that, drop a comment. I saw somebody had mentioned they think that it could mean that JK is in trouble. Again, based on that last punt, that was just insane. By the way, that landed at like the 4-yard line. So, I mean, it was as good of a punt, and it was over 5-second hang time. I want to say it was like 5.1 or whatever. I don't think it's because he's in trouble. Amari Rogers, 1 return, 5 yards. That wasn't going anywhere, but at least he held on to the ball. Why don't we head over here and look at what you guys had to say? Mr. Daniel Dubois says, Luck looked, I do have Facebook. Here we go. We're good. Luck, and he means love, looked like a rookie out there. Not too bad, just bad decisions. Still think there's a ton of promise. Just wish we can provide more protection. I understand it's preseason, just would be nice. More or less exactly what I said. I think, and we got to see what Justin Fields does. We'll see how that goes. But I've been saying the same thing about Love as I've been saying about Fields and some of these other guys. There's nothing great. There's nothing really that bad. I mean, the pick was bad, but there just hasn't been anything that you look at and go, this guy's special. Maybe the free play throw was pretty good. There were a couple decent throws, but for the most part, these are either there's a guy open and he throws it and it's an accurate pass. I mean, he is accurate. There's no question about that. Brendan Daltax, thank you very much. My subscription to the podcast, you're the best. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The $19.99 super chat. That's awesome. Thank you very, very much. There just hasn't been anything that really wows me. And I think it's, in my opinion, I understand it would be nice if there was protection and all that stuff. In my opinion, and I don't think it's super debatable at this point, he's not the starting quarterback. In other words, if Aaron Rodgers had decided not to come back, we'd be in a lot of trouble right now. I think he is capable enough to kind of navigate through some things, and maybe with some better protection and a better run game, we could probably stitch together if Matt LaFleur really put on his thinking cap and put together a good drive and some good plays. We could probably stitch together some scoring drives, and depending on the defense, whatever. But there's really, you know what I mean? There's just nothing where you just look at it and go, that is special. And I'd like to see some of that, especially now that we've seen oh my goodness, there's the nonsense throw. You'd like to be able to see a little bit more of the special, because you saw that in college. It was easy to see in college where it was like, this guy he's got some upside. Again, he's very accurate. I haven't seen a lot of really inaccurate throws. Even on the run, he puts the ball where it needs to be, which is great. It would just be nice if there was like a 20-yard right in, with a defender draped over him. I just haven't seen a ton of that. So, I don't know. We're not going to get a chance to, hopefully, anytime soon, because after this we get the regular season, and hopefully Aaron Rodgers is out there for every snap. Michael says, who did LaFleur have calling plays today? What a collection of bad play calls. Yeah, especially down at the goal line. I mean, the play calling, and I know the thing is they always talk about it being vanilla, but still, I mean, when you're in these situations, whether it's defense or offense, you want to call a play that's going to be successful. I mean, I don't know what all is under the umbrella of vanilla, but still call something that's successful. And when we had, I forget what the announcer had said, but it was something like 4, 5, 6 trips inside the 25 and nothing to show for it. It was bad. And part of the issue too that I was thinking about as I was watching this game is what makes evaluation hard is it only takes one of the 10 guys can do their job perfectly, and it takes one guy to ruin it for everybody. Jay Sternberger getting absolutely annihilated and us losing yards on a running play. Everybody else, as far as I know, did their job. I have no idea, but it just takes one guy to play like garbage, and the whole thing is over. But yeah, I mean, could we have tried one screen pass to Amari or anything to try to get some? I don't know, but it wasn't great. So I don't exactly know. It's hard to know who to blame, because again, part of this is evaluation and it's backups, and was it a bad play call, or did we just have a guy get blown up, or a guy didn't run the right route? I will say, as one of the negatives, I mean, it's a positive, but it was something I only observed during the negatives. Jordan Love seemed in command, and he certainly seemed to know what was going on. I mean, I saw him scolding some players for not going to Jace, on one of those quick little. I mean, he was under pressure. He's leaning back and he lobs the ball over. Jace kind of stopped. He's running and then he stops, and then the ball goes over Jace's head, and Jordan's like, "What are you doing? Why did you stop? Keep going." Obviously, not snapping the ball, and he's screaming at his receiver, come on, you need to come in, you need to, get off the line, you need to come in. So he knows where everybody's supposed to be, what everybody's supposed to be doing, and guys are just messing up, right? The center, Hansen, was just having a horrific day. Threw the ball at Jordan Love's feet the one time. The second time, he just refused to snap the ball. He's screaming, clapping, trying to get him to snap the ball, and he's just sitting there. So again, it was a negative for the team to see so many people, especially Jace. I mean, Jace, we're talking about, is he going to be a breakout player? Is he even going to be a starter? I think at this point we got to start asking, and some of you have been saying this for a while, but, does he make the team? I still tend to think he does. I just don't know his purpose. I mean, there's nothing he does. Blocking, I think, is abysmal. The route running, I mean, I would rather have DeGuara and Tunyon and probably Daphne at this point, and maybe that's a little bit unfair, but he's never really just shown all that much. So I'd be a little surprised if they cut him, but if they did at the same time, it would be more of a, oh, wow, I didn't think that would happen, but I totally get it. Danny, let's see, he was just, so you guys are just having conversations in my chat. I see how it is. Michael elaborates, says, should have had 3 touchdowns. Yeah, at least. Speaks McGee, preseason, Michael, they don't show anything. Again, it is true, and it's kind of back and forth, right? It's vanilla, but still, I mean, when you narrow it down and get into the specifics and say, okay, it's 2nd and goal, I understand you don't want to pull out any trick plays or whatever, but you still want to score a touchdown. And, you got to execute. And again, they have their starters, and we have our backups and that whole thing. And that doesn't, especially in the trenches, right? When you got all your guys out there and you need to make a push, I mean, I can go through our list of backup offensive linemen that are trying to make a push against guys, that are a pretty talented group of along that defensive line. Some really high picks like Jerry Hughes. He's up in age, but he's a premier player. Again, Ed Oliver hasn't been all that great so far, but he's still an athletic freak. Going up against Yash and Hansen and, whoever else was out there, Capra, I don't even know. But, it didn't work out too well. Speaks McGee did say something here that I also thought. He says, I'd be upset if I was a Bills fan. First team offense against third-string D and only put up 13. I had that exact same thought. So I'm not happy as a Packer fan with what I'm seeing. However, I agree. I mean, if the Packers were beating the Bills 13-0 at halftime, I mean, the 0 is exciting, but 13 points is like, it's not that good. 13 points in today's NFL at halftime is not that impressive. This is your starting offense. I guarantee you their starting quarterback, who was out there the entire half, I think he might have been the whole half. They're not putting him out there behind the backup offensive line. I know that they're not. And I know they didn't have Stephon Diggs, but I know all their other wide receivers were out there because they were the ones catching the passes. I know. So, yeah, I mean, your starters against a bunch of guys half of the guys that were playing defense are not even going to make the team. And they can only get 13 points. That's not that good. So, again, I don't get it. I understand it's just reps, but that I would say that also is not great. David says, I don't think Taylor looked good. I'm assuming you're talking about Patrick Taylor. I don't know why I always assume there's another Taylor, but I didn't think so either. I like how decisive and powerful of a runner he is, but, this seemed like a game for Kylan Hill. It's one of those things where depending on your opponent and how things go, certain times certain running backs work. So, like last week, I thought A.J. Dillon looked great. There were kind of bigger holes to run through, and I think if you give A.J. Dillon a lane, he's going to destroy people. In this game, I thought the Buffalo Bills defensive line did a great job of holding up and really cluttering things up, and you needed a guy like Kylan who's got some fantastic vision and a lot of wiggle to find those little creases, get in there, kind of wiggle around and make something happen. A guy like Patrick Taylor and A.J. Dillon, to be completely honest, for the most part, it really wasn't working too well for them, I thought. So it's good to have. So this would be a game, if we were talking regular season, Aaron Jones and presumably Kylan Hill would probably be the better running backs in this situation. But again, you go up against a different team. Our offensive line is doing a great job blocking things up. You get A.J. Dillon rolling, and it's just going to be a long day. But yeah, again, Taylor. It seems to me they've made up their mind that Dexter is bottom of the barrel and they're ready to move on from him. I just wish that wasn't the case, man. Consistently he's been a very good running back. I know he's had his issues, and I'm sure he struggles in other areas, but that speed that he's got, he's so bursty, and he just flies around the field, and he gets around the edge so fast when there's nothing there. He bounces it to the outside. He gets around the edge. He always gets a ton of yards out there. Cody says, "Go Pack, go." Thank you for confirming Facebook works. Fight in the comments. I liked a lot of the first half offense and defense, says David Harder. I thought so. I thought they looked good. Again, for the most part in the first half, which again was against primarily their starters, it was mostly they looked good until, for example, on defense, look good, give up a chunk on third down, right? And that was not even so much the whole defense or even a play call necessarily. It was a ridiculous missed tackle, or that ridiculous touchdown where it was 3rd and 20. And I know I was, and I'm guessing a lot of you were sitting there saying, please blitz, right? Especially with our defensive line, because with the guys that we pull, if our defensive line looks like, let's see, Willington Pavilion, Jack Heflin, and who else would be out there? Tippa and Jonathan Garvin or whatever, Delonte Scott. I don't know if I saw Tippa at all. There's no pass rush is the point. We've got a very select few guys that can rush the passer. I think we've got Kenny Clark, who struggled last year, but he's got the ability. Kingsley Keke has the ability. Preston kind of has the ability. Rashawn and Zadarius, those are the pass rushers. Those are the guys that can get it done. If you're only going to bring 4 or whatever the case may be, if you got them on the field, there's a chance. With our backups, and by the way, most of our backups, it's not even so much a slam. Heflin's a big boy. He's a run defender. Tadaro Slayton is a big old run defender guy. Willington Pavilion. I mean, a lot of the backups that we have, Tyler Lancaster, who I don't even think even played, but similar thought process, they're not pass rushers. So you're not going to get much pass rush. So again, I'm sitting there saying, bring the heat. 3rd and 20, don't let him sit back. Just don't let him sit back in the pocket and find somebody. If we want to blitz and he's going to find somebody and dump it off, we'll give our guys a chance to come up and make a play before he gets to 20 yards. And if he doesn't, whatever. But just letting him sit back there forever, you knew that was going to happen. So as soon as I saw, and I was screaming at my TV, please blitz, please blitz, please blitz. And as soon as I saw we dropped everybody and only rushed 4, I just said we're doomed. And we were. It was the least surprising touchdown I've ever seen in my life. So, again, back to the play calling, and I understand it's preseason and we're trying to evaluate and all that stuff. Fine, evaluate a linebacker coming on a blitz, for crying out loud. But yeah, so again, it was some bad play calling and whatnot, but a lot of it was just, it was a lot of good and then just right at the right time. You know, the offense, they're moving all the way down the field and they can't finish. The defense, good first down, good second down, then they give up a first down, which hopefully doesn't carry on into the regular season. But point is, for the most part, I thought it looked pretty good. And again, 13 points at the half, it's not all that impressive. And even 19-0 is, I mean, the nothing is the painful part. But for the Buffalo Bills, as you said, if I was the Bills, I wouldn't be happy about that. Starting offense with Josh Allen, we have Super Bowl aspirations, and we can't put up 20 points against the Packers' second and third string defense. That kind of sucks a little bit. That would be my thought. I don't know. Michael says, Malik Taylor looked good. Did y'all not watch the game? I didn't notice a Malik Taylor comment, but yeah, I thought he looked good. Trying to think about the specific wide receiver plays. I know Malik at least had one. I think it was a big third down conversion. Again, even with them, I'm trying to remember if there was any one play that was like really fantastic. I don't remember if it was Beggleton or Taylor that caught that real tight, what was it, the contested catch on the free play. But yeah, those two guys I thought did fine. Hazelton, I know, had one nice grab. Juwan, I can't really remember the specifics, but yeah, I think Malik Taylor kind of more or less has that job locked up. Reggie Beggleton's giving him a run for his money, but I don't know. I just don't know if he's going to get it. Michael says, you mean Patrick Taylor? I don't know. Goose says, it felt like the Bills were going to keep their starters out until Love left the game. And that's what I'm talking about. And I don't want to be this goofy conspiracy theorist, but it really did feel that way. And it almost sounds like we just want to embarrass your backup. And that's a little messed up. It didn't do you any good. What good did it do you? You're not able to evaluate. I mean, Fromm played hardly at all, and Trubisky didn't play at all. I mean, so who are we evaluating? By the way, they're throwing every single down. Their running backs had like 4 carries the whole freaking game. So it did not feel like they're trying to evaluate. It felt like they were just trying to go out and punish. And maybe, I talked about it on the podcast, Packernet podcast, by the way. Thank you to the viewers for checking this out. If you are interested in hearing more about the Packers on a day-to-day basis, Packernet podcast is the name of that podcast. What the heck was I talking about? I talked about it with the Bears game a little bit, about how the Chicago Bears, especially this week, need to come out and just have a big bang, right? Put Justin Fields on the field. I don't want them to do it because I'm not a Bears fan, but if you were a Bears fan or if you're running the Bears, put Justin Fields out there, put all the starters out. Even if it's just for one series, put them all out there and just annihilate the team that's in front of you. Just do everything you can. I'm talking about pretend it's the Super Bowl and pull out trick plays. But that's mostly just because we have Justin Fields. If you're the Bills, dude, you don't need to prove anything. We know you're good. We know you're one of the best teams in the AFC. That's not even debatable, right? One of the top 3? You got Kansas City, you got Baltimore, you got Buffalo, and what? So it did feel that way, and it just annoyed me. It just felt like we're not able to do our job because you feel like making a statement and just trying to embarrass the Packers, which, by the way, you kind of failed at. Again, the 0 isn't great, but 19 points. Congratulations, superhero. Brambo with the super chat from a while ago, 4 minutes ago. Sorry, I missed that. $5. Thank you very, very much. Says, caught you live. Go Pack, go. McDuffie looked fast and physical. I'm a big McDuffie fan for no real rational reason. I just really like the guy. Plus, his name is awesome. It's like Duff Man from The Simpsons mixed with a McDonald's McMuffin, which is delicious. Hill is a great addition to the running back group. Love is going to be really good. I hope so. Just because some people are overreacting, I am going to go back and compare Love to what Aaron Rodgers did in the same period of time, just because some people need to see that. But, again, there's nothing I saw that makes me think, as you said, he's going to be really good. But there's nothing I saw that makes me think he's going to be bad. I think you can see the mental processing getting there. I love that there are times when there are guys right open in front of him and he goes to that next level. There was a critical, I think, 3rd down completion where he could have dumped it off to a guy that was a couple yards short and hoped that he can turn up and get that first down. But instead, he kind of pump faked it. He said, no, forget that. Hits the guy further down the field for a big completion. It's the mental processing side to that degree. And again, him commanding the offensive line, knowing where people are supposed to be, scolding guys for doing the wrong things, running the wrong routes. He's getting it. But, again, it would be nice to see a little bit more special. And certainly, the if nothing else, the negative has to go away. But he's got the makings of it for sure. I mean, he's got the arm talent. He's got the accuracy. And it seems as though the mental side is coming up. But, again, there's still clearly a step to be taken. More talking amongst yourselves. More arguing. Jacob says, give it a minute, just post it on Instagram. Thank you to everybody who's joining us from Instagram. Jacob says, Bearded Buck Outdoors, by the way, if you're looking to take care of your beard, go check it out. I was all in all impressed considering it's the 3s against the 1s, and that's mostly true. And again, it just depends what you're watching and how you assess things. And I think you can have. I'm going to say it's one of those things where more than 2 things can be true at once. I think there are legitimate criticisms, but I think it's also kind of silly to expect our team to do as well as their team. I just don't think that that's ever going to be the thing. Patrick Taylor not making the 53. I kind of agree at this point. Running backs will be Jonesy, Dillon, and Hill, not keeping 4. Maybe when I did the 53, I found room for them, but it depends. I wouldn't be surprised either way. I don't think they need 4. I think they're very happy with Kylan Hill, and I think they'd be very happy with Jones, Dillon, and Hill. I I have a gut feeling that Patrick Taylor, like you said, will keep 3. Patrick Taylor will be practice squad. Dexter might just get straight up cut. I hope that's not the case, but that's kind of just where my gut feeling is. I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea what they're going to end up doing. Goose says the offensive line looked good on run blocking, but bad on pass blocking. Newman was good, and when he didn't have work, he went out and found it. So I didn't do a very good job of spying that. I was just watching it like a regular football game, plus hosting, and I was making meat, which was delicious, and all that good stuff. But I'm always very interested to go back and look at what the offensive line did. The only real negative I saw was Yash, although I am impressed with him because I think he went up primarily against Jerry Hughes all day. And I don't know that Jerry Hughes did a ton I don't think he had any sacks, for one. So that's a heck of a battle there. So kudos to him for that. But, it's tough to say. And even the running backs, and it's hard to even tell how good of a job run blocking they're doing, because the angle, the camera angle is a little bit not great for that, right? You'd want a little bit more overhead, and sometimes it looks like there's just a big pile, and you see the running back just go flying through. So obviously there was a crease there. But then you also had guys, maybe it's just because their vision sucks, or maybe it's just because they had nowhere to go, where they're just running into piles. So kind of hard to critique. I know for several years before we drafted Eddie Lacy, I used to think we had just a horrifically bad run blocking offensive line. Like, obviously we had good pass blockers, but they just can't run block to save their lives. We go get Eddie Lacy, and all of a sudden he's running all over the place, and it's like, wait a minute, you mean there's a hole there? I didn't know that. That's crazy. But it'll be interesting, and it's a critical bunch of plays for a bunch of guys as far as who's going to end up staying and who's going to end up going. Very critical positions to be won and lost there. I don't want to be accused of being negative, but can we all now agree Sternberger needs to go? We're getting there. And listen, I've always said you never know when a guy's going to break out. I mean, again, for Tunyon, it was year 3 before he finally did anything. He was terrible in his first 2 years. Some guys, it's even later than that. I will at least agree he's shown absolutely nothing to this point. I've kind of been burned out on him. I don't like when people just come down hard on a guy who, I'll defend him because we just don't know yet. But do I agree that he's shown nothing? Yes, I will agree that he's shown nothing. JJ says, what are your thoughts on Tipagalea pronouncing his name Tipa Nalia? Tipa Nalia? Nalia. Dude, is it Nalia at least? So I'm I don't know. Is that at all acceptable, or should we cut him? We got to cut him, dude. I'm not putting up with that. I can't do it. I'm not doing that. Tipanalia. I mean, it is easier to say Tipanalia. But, dude, I've been saying Galea this whole time. That makes me seem super stupid. I mean, it doesn't because it's pronounced that way. I mean, phonetically. But, no, he's got to go. He's got to go. Michael says, Bobby, Big Dog, DeGuara, Kaufusi as 4 tight ends. I think so. Although Dominique Daphne is very well liked by the Green Bay Packers. I know Coach Hahn has done a lot of work with our Outen is our tight ends coach, and they are in love with that guy and the things that he's able to do. Now, I think Daphne is kind of in the DeGuara role, so maybe with DeGuara back, they're like, all right, we don't really need him. That'll be the one interesting thing for me. If we do end up moving on from Jason, and again, maybe they won't. I don't know. I don't necessarily. Well, I don't know. It's so hard to get a feel for what the Packers think. Again, I like Dexter. I think he does a good job, but it's obvious to me based on how they treat him. He's always the last guy to, fourth quarter, like, all right, go do some stuff. And then he does great, and they're like, that's great, go away. Like, I don't know. But trying to gauge it, I mean, Jace does get a lot of time out there. So if they don't like him, it's kind of hard to tell. But if they do get rid of him, obviously Mercedes, Josiah, and then we've got Tunyon. I don't know, man. I feel like Daphne might be the guy over Kaufusi. I know Kaufusi's been fantastic in the preseason. I don't know. It'll be interesting. What will probably end up happening is they will keep Sternberger and not Daphne or Kaufusi, and then Packer fans will just completely riot. Too old for this. I love it. Says, Jordan Love looked really good. Kept his eyes downfield and went through his reads. Too bad they couldn't protect him. That's another good observation. I do think he does a good job of that. It's one of the critiques I have of Kurt Benkert. He does seem to stare guys down a little bit more. He seems to do a pretty good job, but again, it's hard to assess because and Jordan Love was the same. A lot of the completions are pretty simple, guys open, a lot of scheme type stuff. We're going to roll out, and there's a guy, the tight end kind of went out into the flat. There's nobody there. That's one of the few completions in the NFL I could probably make. Not all the time because not a quarterback, but it was a lot of simplistic stuff. But if you kind of watch a little more fundamentally, not that I know much about all that, but I do notice him lock into guys. It's one of the things where you see him stare and stare and stare, and then he goes like this, and he's staring, and then it's like, why don't you get open? Come on, get open. It's like, you got to look around, dude. You can't be doing that. But yeah, I was very impressed. And also another thing I liked about Jordan is his ability to step up. I know one of those completions, at least, it might have even been again, dude. That I got to go back and watch it for many reasons. That play, which was a free play, was pretty special. And maybe it wasn't that play, I don't know, but he stepped way. I mean, he jumped. He stepped way up in the pocket, and it collapsed around him real tight, and he barely got out of there. I mean, his arm was just about to get hit. He jumped way forward, launched that thing, and completed the pass. And I remember there was a note about that. I think, actually it was, and I don't know if this is correct, somebody else's comment, but when in week 1, there was the strip sack where they stripped the ball out of his hand. I think it was a strip sack or a fumble recovery. I don't know. They stripped the ball out of his hand. The critique that somebody had made is he didn't step up enough in the pocket. So this time around, he leaps up in the pocket, goes as far forward as he can, just evades pressure, and gets the ball out. So I think it is little things like that kind of point to, again, if you just look at Kurt Benkert and Jordan Love, it's like they looked the same, right? They both completed a bunch of passes. Maybe Kurt's a little better because he didn't throw a pick. But I think when you look at the nuance and the things that kind of make a quarterback, I don't think they're even on the same level. It's just my thought on it. Let's see. JJ says, or Nollier. I don't remember. I don't remember or care, which I don't know if I care either. I don't know if I really don't remember seeing him at all today. Michael says, Jordan Love press conference on now. If you guys, it might be over because he's come behind on these comments, but if you want to throw some comments in, let me know what he said or anything like that. That's something I'll watch a little bit later. And again, Packernet podcast. I don't know, probably not going to do it immediately after this because I need to go upstairs and see the family and whatnot. But I'll watch it. But tomorrow morning is going to be another podcast to be able to talk about some of this stuff. So make sure you check that out, but I will listen to the press conferences after I do this. Sternberger is definitely frustrating, says Speaks McGee. Wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut. It feels like we're all kind of on the same page there. Eamon Moran, what would it take to make you interested in a trade offer for Love and try to roll with 12 for another 3 to 4 seasons? Well, I wouldn't do it because we don't have a commitment. Now, if we're saying hypothetically, Aaron Rodgers says, listen, I will commit to you. In other words, the Packers are like, okay, we're going to rework a contract so that you're basically stuck here. And we're going to trade Jordan Love, and you're staying for 3 to 4 years. I would be tempted. I generally don't like it. There's so many variables. I mean, I don't know exactly what they think about Jordan Love. Again, I haven't seen anything, not that it means anything, but I haven't seen anything that's like this guy's going to be a superstar. Now, granted, most superstars kind of look like Jordan Love when they start out. Aaron Rodgers didn't look good. Stafford maybe is a stretch to call him a superstar, but he was terrible. Kirk Cousins was terrible. Pretty much everybody not named Pat Mahomes, pretty terrible in the preseason when they first got started. But I would say that I'm more open to it now than I was before because we've seen him as much as we've seen him. The mental errors seem to still be there. There's a little bit of growth, but it's, the picture's slowly coming into focus. It's still 98% blurry for me, but that 2% is like, I don't know. Plus, we're also getting closer to the end of his rookie contract. We're going into year 3 with him next year. So these are all variables, but there's also the variables on the other side, such as how in the world do we keep this team together with Aaron Rodgers' crippling contract? Do we give him some kind of an extension? I don't know. I don't know what we do, but I honestly don't even really like those questions right now because there's so much to even take into account, and I hate going into 2022 when we haven't even started 2021 yet. But I don't know. I generally I would probably just say no. And try to keep Rodgers if we can, but we'll see how it goes. I don't really see a need to trade Love if we don't have to. Also depends what we would get for him. If you're telling me we're going to get a high pick for him, it would be interesting, and I might want to draft a quarterback again, which I know maybe defeats the point. But, if I can get Matt Corral, just saying. Oh, you did say what would it take. So I don't know if I answered your question, but those are my thoughts. Jason says, isn't it bad on our end? Mike is drowning out the noise. Oh, I'm way behind on the comments. All right, good. I'm glad you couldn't hear the hose. It's very loud for me. It's hard to tell how it sounds for you. I don't know why. It shouldn't be that hard. Jace just looked like he should be serving burgers today, says Goose. I mean, it across the board. I mean, again, he's supposed to be a starter, one of the few starters running with the backups. He should be a man among boys. And he's not impressive. Again, you talked about Malik Taylor. He looked good. Reggie Begelton looked good. Even, I know we're talking wide receivers, but Amari Rogers is like, he's kind of getting it a little bit. Amari Rogers looked way better than Jace. And even Amari Rogers, you're looking at him going, he's not where he needs to be. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm very indifferent to Jace Sternberger. I'll say that. If we keep him, it's like, all right, let's give him another year. If we don't, okay, I don't care. Michael says, Sternberger can't block or catch, and he is slow. Not a good trio. Yeah, the speed thing is not great. He really isn't that fast. I mean, Tunyon is way faster than he is. I think DeGuara is similar in speed, and these the DeGuaras of the world are not meant to be what Sternberger is. I mean, if you're the guy that's going to play against linebackers, you want to, if you're slower than linebackers, that sucks. But yeah, I mean, you got to be good at something if you're doing that. If you're not faster, you need to be a better route runner, and he doesn't seem smooth at all. His catching, it's more, and I've talked about it before, he'll catch a ball on the flat, and he just seems clumsy, like stone-footed, like Frankenstein feet, and it's like, again, if you're going to be that type of a tight end where you're more of a slot guy than anything, I mean, you're basically a wide receiver tight end hybrid. These are the things where you should look more smooth than Mercedes Lewis, and he just kind of doesn't. I mean, he's a little bit faster, but he just seems kind of clumsy. And when Mercedes Lewis catches a pass like that and he kind of stumbles, dude, it's Mercedes Lewis. He's a blocker. If he pulls off 4 yards, it's like, hey, way to go, old man. You're looking great there. But not Jace. Jace, I don't expect that. I expect a lot better than that from Jace. Jason says, Love looked good. The offense then went full moron in the red zone. I don't know. It was bad. It was ugly. And really, to be completely honest, and I think it was Michael that said it, we should have had 3 touchdowns. We could have won the game. Our backups could have easily beat the Buffalo Bills if they had just punched it in. Right? If Jace didn't give up that block, if we just give, a slightly better play call, a slightly better throw, a slightly whatever. If we convert half of our red zone trips, what is it, 21-19? I know the whole butterfly effect, who knows, but that's kind of crazy. And in a way, that's a positive thing to show how good the overall team performance did. Again, they only scored 19, and we were down there in the, the 0 makes it look like we couldn't do anything. That's not true. They converted plenty of first downs. They kind of moved the ball with relative ease. I mean, there were only, 2 punts in the whole game. Granted, they were going for it on fourth all the time, but you don't go for it on fourth when you're on your own 20. They were able to get on that side of the field and get into a position where going for it on fourth makes sense. So yeah, I mean, it was not bad. Michael says the O-line is scary. 3 starters played today, and J Love nearly got killed. Who are the starters that played? I know I saw Yash pretty much the whole game. So there was no David Bakhtiari, there was no Elton Jenkins, there was no Billy Turner. There is the guard battle, so it would only be Josh Myers and a couple other guys that would have been starting. Let's call it Royce Newman, and I don't know that they were bad. Right, it could have been somebody else that was, but that'll be something else to consider. But you got to figure, I don't think so. We had, for example, let's say John Runyon wins the job. We had John Runyon last year, and it was fine. So there's no expectation for the offensive line to be a problem because it's the same offensive line for the most part as last year. The only difference being center being Josh Myers, which might be a step back, but I really don't see any reason to be worried because our backups were getting pushed around by the Bills. I know there were a couple starters out there, but again, it takes one guy. I mean, if Yash gets pushed out of the way, that has no reflection on our starters because Yash is not a starter. Let's see. We just reached Brendan's super chat. Thank you very much for that once again. I'm not going to read your comment again, but thank you. Eamon says, John Kuhn reported that Mason asked to punt one because he never... It just goes to show, it's kind of funny because Packer fans, some of them, not everybody, they get so mad about the fact that we lost. A couple fans. Most fans, I don't think, are that way. But you get a couple fans that are so mad. 19-0 is an embarrassment. And here are the Packers like, yeah, go ahead. You go punt. Who cares? I don't care. It's stupid preseason. Nobody cares. Right? So obviously it's not that serious to them. At least as far as certain things. I mean, it's serious as far as evaluating some guys, giving them all opportunities. Everybody that wants a job, let's give them an opportunity to prove they should be here. But J.K. is not going anywhere, and Mason felt like doing something. They're like, screw it, who cares? Michael says, is the stream on? Mine isn't, but that's okay. I don't know what that means. Hopefully I didn't cut out. Mason Crosby punted today. Why? We kind of talked about that already. Let's see. Daniel says, Love has been impressive with his hard count. Yeah, that's another thing. I couldn't really hear it on my TV, but he was killing them with the hard count today. He got multiple people to jump off. He got the free play, and I think two additional penalties on top of that with the hard count. So again, he's picking some stuff up. It's not the full package, right? It's not good enough if you can do all this, and then when you get down into the red zone, you can't finish. And I'm not saying it was all his fault. Who knows what the actual problems were, but the tertiary, the extra little things on the perimeter are starting to build up, and you're starting to see veteran-type things developing with Jordan Love, and that's kind of cool to see. It needs to all... needs to all come together, but he's making progress. We'll see how it goes. Michael says, Myers, Royce, Newman are starters in case anyone is wondering. Royce maybe, but again, even that's not a bad thing because if Royce is the starter, he's replacing John Runyon, who was our starter last year, and Lucas Patrick started quite a bit last year, so it's an upgrade, right? So again, it's kind of a positive thing, but yes, we did have some starters playing. I think Love struggles to come back to how bad the blocking was, says Goose. And it's also frustrating because week 2, the blocking was amazing, right? Kurt Benkert had all day to throw the ball. The running backs were just annihilating the Jets. I just wish we could have seen Jordan Love get a little bit of that, and that's why, again, I was thinking, okay, we get maybe 1 or 2 series with the starters, and then it'll be backups, and we can see Jordan Love kind of get into a groove, and they just never pulled him. So, I don't know. It sucks, but whatever. It is what it is. Surprised to see Mason punting in the 4th. It was indeed. Michael says no defensive starters and no game planning, but the defensive scheme looks pathetic no matter how little you show. Joe Barry's D is not impressive. Well, that's what I don't know. There are a lot of things that he's done that have terrified me, but at the same time, I mean, you even said it. The no defensive starters, no planning, no matter how little you show is what you're saying. Well, if you're not showing what you would actually have done in that situation, I don't know, right? What would he have done on, so this is sort of the question for me. On 3rd and 20, if this was in the Saints game, would you have run that same play with our starters? Now, granted, it would have had a higher probability of success when we're talking about Jair and Amos and Savage in coverage and Za'Darius and Rashawn and Kenny and Preston or whoever's out there pass rushing. You got a little bit more likely, but I don't want to see that too much. I don't want to see super soft, super scared defense in those types of situations because more often than not, even with a more talented group of guys, that's going to fail. And if what you're saying is this is exactly how I intend to run my defense, then I'm a little bit worried. If this is just, I'm just going to call a generic play because it's the preseason and that's what you do in the preseason, then it means nothing. But the point is, I don't know. I have no idea. We're going to have to see how this goes. But, I mean, I agree. There are certain things that are concerning. The number one thing that's concerning is he actually reminds me more of Dom Capers, very much like Dom Capers, where it's just, real stout on 1st and 2nd down and 3rd. It doesn't matter if it's 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 500. They're going to convert it. That's what scares me the most. But, again, we got to see what happens when the starters are in there, and we got to see what kind of things he's going to do once the starters are actually out there and we're in the regular season. You're right that he hasn't inspired a lot of confidence, but I don't know if what we're seeing is telling us anything or not. And he goes on to say so far. So, yeah, I agree. So far it has been, but, whatever. Did the live drop? Says, so I get another one saying, did it drop? I hope it didn't drop. I got people still watching. We caught up to the $4.99 super chat from Brambo. Thanks again for that. Brambo says, could have scored 12 to 15 on passed up field goals, though.
could have scored 12 to 15 on passed up field goals. I don't know. I'm stupid, man. I'm sorry. I don't know what that means. That was Taylor. He made 53 locked up. There's a lot of comments to things I said about 55 minutes ago. See, there's not. I'm hoping you guys are still here. Goose says, I think it's the opposite philosophy. Some teams believe preseason you need to win and get the team rolling. Others believe it's a chance to get rookies reps. So, yeah, I mean, it seems that way. It seemed to me like everybody used to be in agreement as far as like how many starters would play. And usually you would have some starters. The Packers are going in a different route where no starters play. And you can see the negative effects of that. I mean, it's positive because none of our guys are getting hurt, but it's negative in terms of it's really hard to evaluate when everybody else has starters and we're starting zero, basically, with the exception of guys that have to fight for their job, like you said, with a couple offensive linemen where we're still trying to assess those guys. But we've got so many guys set along the offense and defense at the starter positions where it's like there's no competition here, so we're just going to sit them all. But yeah, it seemed like there was, in general, kind of a general philosophy of this is how we do things, and then this year not so much. But even so, again, and I agree that that's what's happening, why are the Bills on that side? The Bills should not be doing it. Tampa should not be doing it. Kansas City should not be doing it, and they're all doing it. You guys were already Super Bowl contenders. I mean, again, go ahead and do it, and you apparently got out of it scot-free. We got some more going on. By the way, I'll pull up YouTube TV and make sure I'm not trying to ignore you guys. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any good. I think the Bears are on a little bit later. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Our backup defensive line is better than our backup offensive line, says JJ. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I like our backups. Again, the only real issue is they're not good pass rushers. They're bigger guys, but even when they tried to run the ball against our backups, I feel like they did a good job of bottling that up. But again, it's Heflin, it's Slayton, it's Pavilion, and those are pretty good football players. And I think these are guys that are going to get some playing time. They're not dominant elite guys, at least not right now, but they're good football players. Whereas Jake Hansen looked like he shouldn't be in the NFL, right? Ben Braden, Capra, I don't think I've even seen his name out there. Cole Van Landen has not been impressive. Some of these guys are just, they're not, maybe they will be at some point, they're just not at all where they need to be. But yeah, these guys, I expect Heflin to be getting a good amount of playing time and TJ Slayton to be getting a good amount of playing time. They're ready to go. Michael says the problem with no starters playing in the preseason is coming out flat week one. That is true, and you know, if it's tough because if we put Aaron Rodgers out there and he got hurt, everybody would say Matt LaFleur is an idiot. They'd say he's an idiot, and they'd be right. If they don't play Aaron Rodgers and the Packers come out flat and the Saints don't, everybody's going to say he's an idiot. It's really a no-win situation. The other thing, though, and the coming out flat thing, I think, is a little bit overhyped because for a couple different reasons. First of all, these little piddly couple snaps don't really amount to very much, in my opinion, because it generally, what we've seen, even when teams are playing in the preseason, it's not until at least week 4 when these teams look competent, when they're kind of coming together and looking like decent football. Some of these teams, it's halfway through the season before they kind of get rolling. So do we want to risk, let's say, 2 quarters of risking Aaron Rodgers for something that doesn't matter so that he's 2 quarters closer to being 4 games in when he's ready to rock and roll? And if you're saying, well, it doesn't take him 4 games, you're right. So why does it matter, right? I just think we kind of overstate that a little bit. They need a little bit. They need some kind of getting into it and some physicality. And even Rodgers has talked about the benefit of kind of getting that first big hit out of the way. But, you know, I guess it's going to happen against the Saints. I don't know. To me, it's worth it. We'll see how it goes. But again, I think it takes a while for teams to kind of get rolling. And I don't know that, a quarter with Rodgers and Devontae is going to help all that much. But I guess we'll find out. Areola Grande, huh? All right. Haha, Bills fan here. We played starters, but we've been playing all second, third string guys for all preseason games until this. The last game, I don't think that's unreasonable. Yeah, I guess that's kind of fair. I'm critiquing it from the standpoint of how much it sucked for us and how much they're playing. You know, again, give them a quarter, but 3 quarters, it's kind of crazy.
My stream is dropping like crazy, says Goose. I'm hoping that's your fault, but I guess I don't know. Michael says mine too. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Nothing I can do about it. Red zone was an issue with locking in on a player. Yeah, Bruce said that. I'm trying to think back now. Again, the running plays were an issue. I know there was that one pass across the middle. That seemed like a play that, I mean, when you watch the replay of that, I don't know if it was just maybe not exactly a good enough pass or if the defender just did a good job of catching up, but the wide receiver had a step. And then by the time the ball got there, the defender was there. So it seemed like it's something that could have worked. And again, the run plays just were coming up flat. But I don't know. It's one I'd have to go back and look at. I don't remember. Michael says, how did a Bills fan find the live stream? I feel like troll faking being a Bills fan. I mean, the title of it, I think, is Packers versus Bills. Plus, my YouTube channel is generally it started off as an NFL draft channel. And I've actually been purging. A lot of people have been unsubscribing lately because I've done nothing but this general Packers talk. And a lot of people are like, isn't that the draft guy? Why is he just talking about the Packers? This is stupid. So my channel is going to be purging subscribers, but I just, it is what it is. So that's probably how he found it. Beep-a-doo, Universal Truth. I like what I've seen from Slayton and Heflin so far. Heflin for sure. He's there every single time, every single game. He's making some kind of a play. I've never seen Slayton do anything wrong. I've seen a couple big plays, but it's been kind of intermittent. Again, I'm not really locked in the trenches to watch these things. I did finally splurge on Game Pass, so that's probably what I should do after this stream, but I know I won't. I'm going to go upstairs. But I do want to hone in on a couple of these guys and see what's going on. Goose says, I'm from upstate originally, Michael. They have always been my second team. Can't hate the Bills, but I'm totally frustrated with them for keeping their starters in for too long. I think he was talking to somebody else, but also my second favorite team, so there's that. Pedro says, Pedro Magalis, are you the one that just won the jersey, my man? He says, great to be here. If so, congratulations on winning the Zadarius Smith jersey. By the way, for those of you who are here and are not general Packernet podcast listeners, we are giving away a ton of stuff. Signed Devontae Adams jersey, signed DeGuara jersey, signed David Bakhtiari jersey, and a Lombardi trophy that is signed by Jordy Nelson. All of these things, I believe, are going to be coming with certificates of authenticity. Tune into the show hopefully by tomorrow. I got to talk to Jacob. Jacob, if you're still here, we got to figure out what we're going to push. Because of this live stream stuff, I think I might want to go with the Facebook page. I would do YouTube, but the problem is I can't see any of my subscribers, so I can't say subscribe and I'll give it away to you because I don't have a list of my subscribers. It doesn't tell me. So Facebook does, so I could do the Facebook page. Another one that's very popular and tends to do very well is Twitter. I can't really monetize Twitter, and I don't really care that much about Twitter, but that does tend to blow up. So between those two, that'll be it. But again, tune into the Packernet podcast, and I will be giving you the details on that. As always, make sure you sign up over at Pristine Auction. Use promo code Packernet. They're going to give you $10, just free. They're going to throw it in your account. You can use that to buy some cool stuff, but that's going to be a prerequisite to all these giveaways. We're doing one giveaway a week, and if you're signed up there, you're set. Just then you'll have the one additional thing. Go subscribe or follow me on Twitter and retweet it, whatever. We'll figure it out, but the prerequisite is always going to be sign up. You just do it once, go to Pristine Auction, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, Pedro, hopefully I'm talking to the right guy. Otherwise, that was a waste of everybody's time. Hangout Bills fan, you guys are cool. I agree, man. Again, second favorite team. I went out to Buffalo once. So I've been to actually 2 Bills games. I've been to almost as many Bills games as I have Packer games. But I went out there. Everybody was super cool. Everybody was very much a Packer fan from what I've seen as far as I'm so used to like going to Illinois. Everybody hates the Packers. You go to Minnesota, anywhere in the local area, they hate the Packers. So I went out there and, my buddy, it wasn't against the Packers. It was a Bills-Dolphins game. We were like, yeah, he's a Packer fan. And everybody out there was like, dude, I love the Packers, man. My kid's a big Brett Favre fan and blah, 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 blah. Had some, 2 o'clock in the morning getting some chicken wings at the bar. We went out to the Mud Lot, which I don't even think exists anymore. I'm not sure, but went out to the Mud Lot and everybody was super cool, sharing all their, things they were partaking in. So I barely remember the game, but that was a lot of fun. Michael says, can we go over what meat you made today? And is it meat 7 days a week for the family? I do feel bad for my family. They usually don't partake. It's mostly for me and my lunches and whatnot. But I did make a pork tenderloin, just a big, giant, I mean, legit tenderloin, not like the little packages of tenderloin that you can get. This is a whole tenderloin. And what I like to do is cut them up into 4 sections. And then I do a different marinade or a different seasoning or whatever for each. And there you go. So I did that. Smoked it. I just got sort of a general champion blend kind of thing. Smoked it 225 for, I don't know, 3 hours or so maybe. I don't really remember how long it took. But yeah, it came out quite good. I shared it with Grandma. She just started coming over now that I got the new house. And she's kind of surprised at the food that I've made and everything. She really enjoys that. Plus the fact that I'm just being hospitable and an adult just blows her mind, because who'd have thought? And I tend to agree. Who'd have thought? But quite good. And no, again, when I first make it, when it's hot and everything, everybody gets a little bit and they got to eat the meat and all that. But I don't force feed it to them. I don't want them to grow up to all be vegetarians like my wife is. That would just traumatize me. So they get some of the meat, and then the rest of the week, it's just, that's for me for lunches and for dinner. And I suck down a ton of meat before it goes. And I probably keep it in the fridge way longer than I should. I'm sure it's going bad, but it's like, I don't care. It's delicious. I'm eating it. Chris Goose says, how do you feel about Rivers? I like Rivers a lot. I've been saying that for a while. He keeps making splash plays. Not that it necessarily means anything. You see some guys that make plays in training camp and in preseason, and it doesn't really mean anything, but who else is, right? It was nice to see him finally make some plays in this game. He had at least 2 big plays that I saw in this game. So I'm wishing him the best. I'm hoping that he's able to make it. I think at the very least he earned himself a spot on the practice squad so that they can see a little bit more of him. But thought he did pretty fantastic. Do I have a timer on here? How long have I been going? Hour and 4 minutes. Whew. Let's see. I'm okay with Bills as your second team, but I have no second team. I am great. LOL. That's fair. I've always kind of had, so I used to be a big Patriots fan because I got family out in Boston, but that was until they started winning, and then I didn't like them anymore. Then I started liking the Falcons a little bit partially because of their jerseys. I think the black and red is fantastic. And then also I became a Roddy White fan for a very random reason. It was actually fantasy football. I just started. I drafted Roddy White. Roddy White was fantastic. So that and the jerseys and everything, I just started liking them. And then so I have a second favorite team, and I'm the opposite of a fair weather fan. Once they become very good, I start hating them. So the Bills have now once again become very good. So we'll see how long before I start hating them, but whatever. Goose says, loved watching Doug Flutie when I was growing up. He wasn't Favre, but he was fun. Faraz Hassan says, where do you rank Rodgers all time? Oh, see, I hate these questions. Where do you rank him amongst Favre and Starr? This is not my area, man. I'm so bad with like history and whatnot. And I mean, you got to understand, I was just a Packer fan basically until fantasy football, when I was forced to pay attention to other players and everything else. I barely paid attention. I mean, I obviously watched and I knew who guys like Dan Marino and all those guys were, but I never like marveled, and I wasn't into stats, and I didn't watch any of the other games. I just didn't care. I watched the Packers, and that was it, and I cheered hard, and I couldn't tell you who else was a really good team or a bad team, aside from, I know last year Dallas was good, so the Dallas is probably still, I was completely tuned out. So this all-time stuff, I don't know, man. That's a completely different talk for somebody else. There's too many variables that go into it, and as far as Rodgers, Favre, and Starr, I kind of want to remove Starr from the equation because I've seen very little of his actual play, and it's so hard to compare intergenerationally. I mean, I think you got good arguments on both sides for it. On one hand, it's fair to say that you take the guys from the 1970s and you put them in today, they'd get annihilated, and that's probably true. However, it depends when you take them out of the 70s. If you take them as professional football players out of the 70s and put them in today, they'd get annihilated. But what happens if you take those guys when they're 14 years old, you bring them in here, you give them the same diet, you give them the same training, you give them the same exercise, all the science and everything has advanced so much, and even the understanding of football, that's evolved, but so has how to teach and how to coach, and all that has evolved. So you take a guy, who's the guy? This is also why I don't do these questions. Let me just search it real quick. Best Packers receivers. Don Hudson. Take a guy like Don Hudson. If you take Don Hudson at his peak, like that day, his best day in football, and put him in the NFL today, he probably doesn't make the practice squad, right? Maybe I'm overstating that, but whatever. That's just kind of a reality. But Don Hudson was so much better than everybody else, right? So even if the whole bar is down here, and again, it's because of a lot of it is because of environmental factors. We don't have the training, we don't have the diet, we don't have all these different things that a lot of these guys have. If you take everybody and raise it up, you ask the question, what would Don Hudson be in today's NFL if he had all that stuff? It's an impossible question, but it's an interesting question, and it makes questions like this impossible. How do you compare Starr to Favre? I really don't know, man. As far as Rodgers and Favre, I just like to see it as I think Rodgers is the better quarterback. Just, in terms of what do you call a quarterback in terms of your ability to arm talent, leg talent, that kind of stuff, just all of that put together perfectly. You would build a guy probably like Rodgers more so than Favre, but I've never seen anybody that I love to watch more than Brett Favre. He brought me more joy and happiness than any player in the world, and probably because I was a kid, but he really was something else. And even, guys, people that are older than me would say the same thing. There was just something special about Brett Favre. And really how much he was loved and revered around the NFL. I mean, again, he became a laughingstock and a joke, which is kind of sad because it didn't used to be that way. He was revered. He was idolized. He was a god in the NFL for a very long time. And I talk about how I grew up in Illinois, and there were even Bears fans who wouldn't talk bad about Brett Favre because he was untouchable. And not just because he was goofy and not just because he had a strong arm. He was just incredibly talented. But I still think you would take Favre because he brings you so much joy and he's really talented and he's tough as nails. And I do like, if you're talking down to the wire, it's kind of iffy. Rodgers, he's had some good, he's had some bad. Favre, it's one of those things where if you get him rattled and you mess with him, somebody hits him real hard in the fourth quarter, it's over. You lost. And Favre was also underrated for his intelligence. I think he's kind of seen as like a Southern bumpkin. He didn't know what a dime defense was. He's a country dummy. He was real good. I mean, he was one of those things. I remember when I was a kid, my dad, Brett Favre went to the line and he made a check, and my dad's like, "Watch, this is a touchdown." Like anytime he goes up and he starts making checks like that, it's game over. And sure enough, it was. I mean, he was very intelligent. He knew what he was doing. Pedro says, yeah, 20 people around. I don't know what that means. Zachary Green says, tough, we can't tackle and you can't teach. We can't tackle and you can't teach. We're 0 for 2 on these last comments. I don't know what we're talking about. Jacob, Mr. Bearded Buck, says it's an odd feeling to think if either Jones or Dillon, worst case scenario, happens to get hurt, we still have a great running back squad. Yeah, that's a very cool thing. It will be interesting to see what Hill can do in the regular season. Like, how does he actually compare? Because, again, remember, we are still talking about largely backups, but we have gone against some starters, and he's done a good job. And we don't have a starting offensive line. You start giving this guy a little bit better offensive line, and I don't know. I'm interested. I'm very interested to see what it is he can do. But we're in a good spot there at running back. We're super deep. Wide receiver also quite deep. Offensive line not terrible. The depth is at least getting quite a bit better. Why did Crosby take a punt? The answer is because he felt like it, I guess. J.K. Scott did have the longest punt in his NFL career, which was shocking to see. Was it really? What was it? It was only 51 yards, wasn't it? There's no way. Where do the stats go? It says J.K. Scott 56 yards. I gotta fact check that. That seems like it's not that far of a punt. 56 is not. J.K. Scott. Bear with me, folks. We're doing this live. Punting. Long. Where's your longest? No. So and this is regular season. So in 2020, his longest punt was 62 yards. Wait, what did I say? How long was it? It's 56. It's not even close. In 2020, he had a 62-yard punt. In 2019, he had a 66-yard punt. In 2018, he had a 67-yard punt. So his longest punt in the NFL is 67 yards. Let me check the preseason and see if he beat that at all. No, 66 in 2019. So he's at a 66 and a 67 for sure in the regular season. So unless I read your comment wrong, let me see. Did have the longest punt in the NFL in his NFL career, which was shocking to see. Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe some of these numbers are wrong, but if the NFL is correct and that was a 56-yard punt, there's no way that was his longest. Pedro says, who do you think are the winners to make I can't do that today. I got to kind of rip through this and start winding it down, get to the bottom of these questions so I can be done. So it's too big of a question to kind of go through right now. Dalton says Matt Breida is a beast. I could see him taking starting role from Moss and Singletary. And that was another name. When we're getting late into the game and I hear Matt Breida and I'm like, you guys are a bunch of jerks, man. And I know he's not a starter right now, but it's still like, man, Matt Breida's, he's legit. Eamon Moran, generic play calling serves a purpose in preseason. In my opinion, it shows how guys perform. No, I think you're right. I think it does. So, assuming you're commenting on what we were talking about before, my only real comment was it's hard to decide, was this bad play calling because you're a bad play caller, or was this just being vanilla? Things like that. I understand why. Again, partially because of what I said in terms of not wanting to show your hand, but yeah, also because it's so. For example, on that 3rd and 20, if you just rush 4 and you played a generic zone defense, everybody has a very specific role, right? And you're not getting a lot of help, and you're not getting any of these kinds of things. So yeah, you're right. It's easy to evaluate each individual person in their own little bubble and how each person did. If you're running stunts and twists and have guys coming across and this guy hits this guy and you swerve, you have an assist there. So again, is this vanilla for evaluation or not? And also, again, I don't think it should have been. You can be vanilla the whole time, but on 3rd and 20, because it still matters that you win. It still matters that you put out a good effort. It still matters that you get some energy and some excitement going for the fan base, for the teams, for the coaches, for the leadership and everybody involved. Get a positive start to the season here. Maybe drop the vanilla for a play would be my personal thought. Universal Truth says, is Gene Charles good enough to take over the slot corner from Sullivan? I don't think so. I don't think he's looked good at all. I think I've heard more bad than good in training camp, and in the preseason, I haven't really seen him do anything quite good. He gets picked on kind of a lot, actually. So I think Sullivan's got that locked up. Can he in the future? Maybe, but I think he's been pretty subpar, in my opinion. Goose says, if you just want to push a jersey my way, that'd be cool. We'll see how it goes, man. I am hopeful that you can win one of these, but you know what you got to do, man. And I think you can enter like as many times as you want, so you can do this like 50 times. I might be lying about that. Don't take my word on that, but, do it anyways. The last time I was there and the mud lot still existed. I just heard that. It might not be true. I don't know. JJ says, if Kylan is as good as he looks, is paying Aaron Jones a massive mistake? Well, it kind of goes to prove why you don't pay. He's a 7th-round guy, and he looked like Aaron Jones. I'm not saying he's Aaron Jones, but you also have to consider the pay discrepancy. The massive amount we're paying Aaron Jones compared to the nothing we're paying Kylan, and what's the talent difference? It ain't this, right? If I put it in the cameras as far as I can. It ain't this. This is the pay. Maybe this is the talent. And it's still a big gap, again, proportionally. It's a giant gap, but I think that's why you don't do it. I'm not mad necessarily. I mean, again, it has negative implications. Potentially for next year, some of the guys are getting cut. Why? Because Aaron Jones is gone. But listen, at the end of the day, 3 talented guys, and if Hill is as good as he is, you can probably assume that the first opportunity to get rid of Aaron Jones, as sad as it would be, they're probably going to do it because it's just unnecessary. If A.J. Dillon is just rumbling along and he can be that 22, 23 carry per game guy that's getting anywhere near 4 yards per carry, you're fine with that, especially when you have a Kylan. So it's a good problem to have, but yeah, I think this is why. I think it is because you can find talent later, right? I mean, Aaron Jones is an example of why you don't pay Aaron Jones. But, again, I'm not super mad about it. I'm glad he's back, but point taken. Jacob says, Bills are coincidentally my second favorite team. I played center and middle linebacker in high school, and our massive left tackle, Craig Urbeck, started all 4 years for the Badgers and then played for the Bills at guard. That's pretty cool. Coincidentally, it's my wife's least favorite team because in school, apparently, she was forced to do a report on a football team. She had to do the Buffalo Bills, which means she had to sit down and actually watch football, and it was a terrible, traumatic experience for her. She had to sit and watch football, and she had to sit and watch the Bills, and so she hates them. So that's fine. Michael says, so the practice squad is 16 players, and 6 of the players can be players that have accrued more than 2 years. I guess if you want, put Jace on the practice squad. No team will claim him. Yeah,
I don't know. I know a lot of people really hate him. I wouldn't. I would bet somebody take a flyer on him. Maybe not. Maybe he's been so bad everybody wouldn't. But then why do we? Well, I don't know. Again, it doesn't really matter to me what they do with him. JJ, no, Aaron Jones is a top 50 player in the league. He is, and I don't think JJ would even necessarily dispute that. It's just kind of a question of, I mean, the trend is to get away from that. And why are you getting away from that? And again, I think this would be why. But it's also, again, premature. We don't know what he can do in the regular season. He might not be all that great. He could be subpar. But if he is a really, really, really good player, then yes, it was. But it's also something you never could have foreseen. You know what I mean? So, Zachary Green says, sorry, it's tough to tackle, and you can't teach or practice it on the NFL anymore. I'm still struggling here. I know you're clarifying it, and I'm sure everybody else understands. Oh. Okay, I think it's a comment on physicality in the NFL, I think. Not entirely sure. If somebody could ask one more question so I don't have to end on sounding stupid, that'd be great. But anyways, I think we will wrap it up there. I think we kind of got to the bottom of it. Everybody hates Jace. We spent an hour and 18 minutes talking about Jace being a bum, I guess. I don't know. Thank you again very, very much to Brendan Daltact for the $20 super chat, as well as Brambo09 for the $5 super chat. You guys are fantastic, and I'll be completely honest. If it wasn't for your support, I don't think I'd be doing this as much. But every time I come on here, there's somebody that at least gives a buck or two or whatever, and it makes it worth my time. On top of just really wanting to do it and getting the juices flowing, getting the gears going for the podcast for later. But I really appreciate it. I love the support. We're only at 20 people viewing, 23 people viewing. But as far as live streams go, that's quite good. But I want to get that built up, man. I want to do this more regularly. And I want to get that much, much higher. So get some people invited to this group, this channel. We are going to be doing a lot more Packers content, a little bit of draft here and there. So don't completely abandon me if you're still just wanting draft content. But it is going to be largely Packers. And if you want strictly Packers, Packernet Podcast Facebook page. Make sure you go like that page. That's probably going to be what this giveaway is for, because I really want to build that up, because I really want, before the end of this season, I'm going to die on this hill. We will have 100 viewers watching concurrently. That is my goal. So we're going to say 23. Actually, I think it was at like 26. 26 is our current most on the live stream at once. I want to race that to 100. So we'll be on again shortly. I'm hoping to get this as close to every day as possible, but baby steps. Thank you all for joining me.